Hello everyone, welcome to another draft class recap video. My name is Sam Bradford. Let's get started. Alright, so as you can tell by the board, today we're talking about the Los Angeles Rams. Coincidentally, this video is coming out the same day that they have released their new uniforms for the 2020 season. Interesting. No, I kid. The uniforms, certain aspects of them aren't terrible. The bone colored one, I don't know about that. That one is, I don't know. The helmets are pretty fire though. All right, so let's talk about the Rams a little bit. So to preface the Rams pre-draft, if you will, it seemed like that they got hit by the Super Bowl hangover pretty hard. Once Bill Belichick sort of gave the rest of the league a blueprint on how to shut down the Sean McVay offense, everyone seemed to adopt it. And Sean McVay, for whatever reason last season, whether it was because he was hampered by an off-injured Todd Gurley or a Jared Goff who took a step back and regressed, it seemed that he couldn't be able to make any sort of adjustments to get this offense back into gear. So the offseason has come and gone in terms of free agency. Todd Gurley is no longer with the team. Brandon Cooks has moved on again. So we are left with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Higbee, Jared Goff, Henderson, who's not a bad running back at all, for this offense. And a lot of the defense is different too. So what did the Rams need in this draft? Well, you could have went a whole different number of ways. They didn't own a first-round pick, and what they decided to do was use their first pick, round 2, pick 52, on Cam Akers, running back, Florida State. I don't have a problem with this. A lot of people criticize this pick as just filling out your depth chart, but I disagree. This is about where you should get a running back. We're not talking about top 25 or top 50. We're talking about pick 52. This seems pretty reasonable to get a guy like Cam Akers if a running back is something that you do need. Do they have running backs on the roster currently that they could have used this season and not drafted Cam Akers? Yeah, sure, absolutely. You know my opinion on running backs. They don't matter. But at the same time, if you feel good enough about a player, you can get a running back to add to your offense. If maybe they're making some kind of change this year, I don't know. But Cam Akers is a pretty good running back. His career at Florida State highlights that: 586 carries, 2,875 yards, 27 touchdowns. Also a receiving threat. He had 69 receptions, nice, 486 yards, and 7 scores. Finished last year second in ACC total rushing touchdowns with 14, and he was second in the ACC in total touchdowns with 19. So the kid finds the end zone. I was actually pretty high on this running back. Dating back to last August, I referenced this time period a lot because this is when I started making videos about draft prospects, and Cam Akers was one of the ones that I did a video on. I think I did Justin Herbert, Cam Akers, KJ Hill, and actually I did the next pick, which is Van Jefferson, so let's just move on to him. Round 2, pick 57, Van Jefferson, wide receiver from Florida. He's not the most flashiest wide receiver, but he does intrigue me from a standpoint, having watched some of his tape, that I think he can be a pretty crisp route runner in the NFL. He sort of gives me poor man Stephon Diggs vibes. And maybe that's just me. That's just my opinion. But his career at Florida, his total college career, he spent 2 years at Ole Miss before transferring to Florida. Finishes 175 catches, 2,159 yards, and 16 touchdowns. Doesn't offer anything in the return game, but as joining a wide receiver group that already includes Robert Woods, who I like very much, and Cooper Kupp, who seems to be Jared Goff's go-to security blanket, I think that this could be definitely a good fit, filling in for Brandon Cooks, who is now departed. All right, so moving on to the third round, pick 84, Tyrel Lewis, edge rusher from Alabama. They've decided to go defense here with this one, and Tyrel Lewis isn't exactly the sort of edge rusher that's going to fly off the shelf or just fly off the tape at you and impress you with what he has. Pretty decent career: 47 tackles, 7 sacks, 6 in the SEC last year, and tackles for loss with 12, and 9th in the SEC in sacks with 6 last year. So he does get into the backfield, and he is a disruptor, which is what this defensive line already is with Aaron Donald. So one strength just gets a little bit stronger, and he should be able to excel having Aaron Donald in the middle to take pressure away from him on the outside. Moving on, round 3, pick 104, Tyrel Burgess, safety from Utah. I'm jealous of this pick. I think next year every draft class recap video that I do, and each one from here going out, I'm going to point out the player that I am most jealous of that this team got, that I wish my team would have got. And for me, out of this draft, it's Tyrel Burgess, absolutely. For 104, that's pretty considerable value. His time at Utah, 116 tackles, half a sack, 1 interception, and 9 passes defended. Probably the best box safety in the class. That's arguable, but you know, he can cover the slot very well, and he's a very good box safety, and I think this is a great pick. Moving on, round 4, pick 136, Bryson Hopkins, tight end for Purdue, very productive tight end throughout his career in the Big Ten, finishes 130 catches, 1,945 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5th in the Big Ten in receptions was 61, 3rd in the Big Ten in yards per reception was 17.1, and 7th in the Big Ten in receiving touchdowns was 7 last year. So, very productive at Purdue. This is also a pretty good pick given the offense and given somebody like Jared Goff, who does rely on his security blankets. This, to me, is a poor man's Kyle Rudolph. You get somebody like this later in the round who's going to be there for you on the opposite side of Tyler Higbee. So this makes total sense to me, and I actually do like it. Moving on, round 6, pick 199, Jordan Fuller, safety from Ohio State. One of the things that I've said previously in other videos is that if you can't get one of the top players in their position, like obviously at this point, Xavier McKinney, Grant Delpit, Kyle Duggar, what's his name, Jeremy Chin, were all unavailable. So if you can't get a top tier safety because you're busy filling other spots with different players, get a player in the later round who's battle tested. I mean, Ohio State has seen so much strong competition, playoff competition. You know, so you get somebody with some pretty decent experience. Finished his career with 216 tackles, 5 picks, 10 passes defended. That number of tackles is linebacker territory, so he's pretty astute when it comes to that. Moving on to the final round 7, they got 3 picks. First at 234, Clay Johnston, linebacker from Baylor. Pretty reliable linebacker, career 237 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 interceptions during his time in college. Pick 248, Samuel Sloman, kicker from Miami, Ohio. If you're going to take a kicker, this is where you should do it. Enough with the 5th round bullshit. I just don't understand that. I mean, come on. Sloman finishes with 49 out of 62 field goals made for his college career, so that's a 79% conversion rate. Last year, he was 26 for 30 on field goals for 86.7 conversion rate. That was good enough for 1st in the Mid-American Conference. He also finished last year 4th in the Mid-American Conference in total points with 112. And last but not least, round 7, pick 250, Treymaine. Again, disclaimer. Sometimes I look up how to pronounce these, sometimes I don't. This is an instance where I didn't. Treymaine Antrum. I'm going to say Treymaine Antrum. Guard from Clemson. Interesting that they decided to wait this long to address the offensive line, given how it went last year for the Rams. And that concludes an overview of the 2020 NFL Draft for the Los Angeles Rams. New jerseys and all. And once again, just to recap, very jealous of the Tyrel Burgess pick. Very much like that player. And I think Cam Akers and Van Jefferson are somebody, or is a duo who absolutely can contribute to this offense right away. Now, whether or not Sean McVay trots out the same thing that didn't work last year after the Super Bowl loss to the Patriots remains to be seen. But since we no longer have Todd Gurley in town, and Brandon Cooks is also out of the picture, maybe he is ready to make some changes. I mean, we all saw what he was able to do with Jared Goff in his first year coaching the Rams, and we need to see that again. Otherwise, we might want to be starting to think about what happens after Jared Goff is no longer an LA Ram. So, that is the draft for the LA Rams for the 2020 season. Yeah, not much to really say about it. I mean, I'm not going to give them a grade, but I still think this is a pretty good haul. I don't have a problem with, you know, filling out your depth chart with draft picks. You got to do what you got to do. The Vikings are guilty of that. A lot of teams are guilty of that. And I don't mind that the first pick that they used, that they had, was a running back. It's totally acceptable. If they would have reached and got somebody like A.J. Dillon or Anthony McFarland, maybe I'd be questioning it. But I think they let the board fall to them, and that was a good strategy. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.